afternoon, everyone. I will call to order the Management Committee meeting this date of December 3rd. Thank you all for being here. We do have a quorum, so we'll get started with the business that's before us today. We are not going to be reading the full Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. We do that quarterly, but I just want everyone to take note of that. It's on our agenda. It's an important statement, and I just want people to, again, acknowledge that privately. We also have our agenda before us today. We've all had a chance to review it. Are there any changes, additions, anything? All right, then without objection, we will move forward and the agenda is approved. We also have before us the draft minutes from our November 12th Management Committee meeting. Everyone again has had a chance to look at those, review those. Are there any changes, edits, questions? All right, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the draft minutes from November 12th of the Management Committee. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cedarberg, seconded by Morales. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our non-consent business, part of our agenda, reports of standing committees. So we have before us the first item, which is 2025-277. This is a joint item, and it's the loan agreement with MnDOT for coordinated corridor projects, contract 25R012. And we have with us today, looking. Well, hello, how are you? Katie. I have so many names here, I'm just like, who's here? So we have Katie Roth, our Director of Arterial BRT Projects, and Kristen Prescott, Director of Finance. So I'll turn it over to you and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Katie Roth, Director of Arterial BRT at Metro Transit. Kristen is joining me today for this item, and we're also joined by members in the audience from RA Finance who can help support this item as well. Business item 2025-277 deals with a loan agreement with MnDOT, entering into a loan agreement with MnDOT to loan the Department of Transportation sales tax funding from the Met Council in order to coordinate construction of their efforts on Highway 47, pictured here, with the Metro F-Line Bus Rapid Transit project. So in the 2025 legislative session, and I apologize, I should be using this. As a result of the 2025 legislative session, the council was granted the authority to authorize sales tax loans to MnDOT specifically for the purpose of advancing coordinated corridor projects that ensure that a MnDOT trunk highway can be compatible with a planned bus rapid transit project. The statute allows for up to 2 loans to be made in a total amount not to exceed $250 million and is specifically authorizing 2 eligible corridor projects, the F-Line, which travels on MnDOT highways 47 and 65, as well as West 7th Street on Highway 5. So today's business item deals with the F-Line. And overall, the loan must be repaid in full by June 30th of 2040 or 10 years after construction begins, whichever is later. So I'll move into a little bit of overview of what that coordination looks like specifically on the F-Line corridor. This is the Metro F-Line traveling from downtown Minneapolis up to the Northtown Transit Center in Blaine. It travels almost entirely on 2 MnDOT trunk highways. Highlighted in the green section is Highway 65 or Central Avenue. MnDOT plans to reconstruct this street in full at the same time that Metro Transit builds F-Line stations. They have secured the funding to do this, and we are on track for construction to begin in 2028. On Highway 47, shown in yellow, University Avenue, MnDOT would also like to advance significant construction along that corridor at the same time as the F-Line, but does not have the funding secured at this point to do that. And so the MnDOT sales tax loan would allow MnDOT to advance that project consistent with the F-Line, with construction beginning in 2028, and for then the F-Line to begin service in 2030 after both of these corridors are completed. With that, I will hand it to Kristen to speak to the terms of the loan.
Thank you, Katie. So repayment terms. So the maximum loan for this particular, for the F-Line is $70 million. We're anticipating 2 disbursements, one during design and engineering, that's going to be a smaller disbursement, about $10 million, and then for construction, which will be about $60 million. We have an interest rate that we've agreed upon, and that's at 4%, and interest will start accruing upon distribution. We do say that repayment starts at construction, but per the legislative statute, they can do whichever is later as long as it's paid by June 30th, 2040. And then the repayment schedule is modeled on MNPFA loan structure, Public Facilities Authorities. So that's really a fixed subsidized interest rate, and then 10 equal payments of principal and interest. All right, so the business item 2025-277JT, that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a loan agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for coordinated corridor construction of roadway improvements on the Metro F-line corridor.
Great. Are there any questions? Councilmember Jenkins and then Lilligren.
So educational item for me, does the money we loan to them also go towards the stations and other projects for us, or is that strictly for things they would pay for on their own without our cooperation?
Councilmember Chair and Councilmember Jenkins, the loan and MnDOT's project is separate from the F-line project. So we are advancing these two as independent efforts, and the loan is a contribution to allowing MnDOT's effort to be timed with, but separately administered from the Metro F-line project.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Councilmember Lilligren.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for the presentation and the work, and just for my own information. So the statutory authority is up to 250 million of these loans. This one is just 70 million, so that leaves $180 million of statutory capacity to loan. Is that already sort of earmarked for the Highway 517 project, or are we gonna make it all the way to 250, or is that just some sort of cushion insurance?
Chair, Councilmember, at this point, the $250 million is a maximum.
Right.
The 70 million is the amount agreed to for the F-line on Highway 47. At this point, we continue to have conversations with MnDOT, St. Paul and Ramsey County about how the West 7th Street corridor will advance, knowing that we do have this authority, but at this point, no amount has been determined for that.
Thanks, appreciate that. It just seems so specific, right? It's these two corridors, it's this amount. It felt like there might have been some back of the envelope math or something. So thank you.
Great question. Any other questions? I have one too, just on the negotiated agreed to rate at 4%. How does that work? Interest rate.
What can you?
It's the interest rate is agreed at 4%. Just what's the basis or the background on that? Is it a negotiated rate, or is it in statute, or?
Well, it's a negotiated rate. It's so if, and Ned, maybe you can answer if I misspeak, but it's we can't make any money off this loan, and so it's the interest that we would have earned if the money was in our bank.
Okay, so we're not losing money, it's just more of a,
It's just
neutral.
leveling it out.
okay, great. That was kind of where I was going with that. Are there any other questions? All right then, seeing none, we do have before us the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a loan with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for coordinated corridor construction of roadway improvements on the Metro F-line corridor. Any
Move it.
final, thank you,
Second.
moved by Lilligren, seconded by Osman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Our next item is 2025-292. It's the 2026 non-represented plan changes. And I believe we might have Cassie Fogel. Did I say your name? I hope I Fogali, I wondered. Assistant Director of Labor Relations. So thanks for being with us, Cassie. Good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. My name is Cassie Figali and I'm the Assistant Director of Labor Relations here at the Council. Today I'm here to present the proposed updates to the 2026 non-represented plan. The plan covers approximately 500 employees who are not covered by provisions of a collective bargaining agreement. Over the past 6 months, Human Resources has collaborated closely with the Office of General Counsel and leaders from across the Council to revise the plan. These updates are designed to address the Council's evolving needs, reflect consistency with our labor agreements, and incorporate current best practices. Historically, the non-represented plan has been reviewed annually to ensure necessary updates and adjustments to compensation are made. Looking ahead, it may be more effective to align the review and update cycle of the non-represented plan with the timing of our labor contracts. When we think about the 2026 plan and the proposed revisions, they include a 3% general increase for non-represented employees and either a step movement or performance-based increase depending on where an employee sits on the compensation grid. This increase is within the adopted 2026 operating budget and is consistent with the parameters established by the management committee for our represented bargaining units. Additional changes we propose will enhance clarity, align with existing practices, reduce duplication, and ensure compliance with applicable laws and policies. They include new clarifying language in Section 2 to more accurately define terms related to interns and temporary employees. Section 8 has also been updated to address implications of the Minnesota Paid Leave Program on probationary periods. Additionally, revisions reflect current practice and clarify benefit eligibility as outlined in Section 12. The plan has also been updated to eliminate redundancy by removing language already outlined in existing council policies and procedures, specifically in Section 1 and Section 7. The 2026 plan makes updates to formalize existing operational practices. Section 3 has been revised to reflect current operating hours. Section 4 has been updated with language regarding eligibility for holiday pay. Section 6 clarifies the income protection as a non-intermittent benefit applicable to non-work-related illness or injury. It also affirmed that employees remain responsible for their share of group insurance premiums during their leave. Additionally, bereavement leave eligibility has been expanded in Section 7. And finally, we have made updates to ensure compliance with statutory requirements. Specifically, Section 3 has been updated related to rest and meal breaks. Section 5 clarifies the use of annual leave in relation to earned sick and safe time. And Section 7 outlines updated eligibility criteria for medical leave. Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council approve the 2026 represented plan changes effective December 2025 and incorporate the revisions into the attached document.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm gonna restate the motion that we got here in our packet, that the Metropolitan Council approves the 2026 non-represented plan, changes effective December 20th, 2025, incorporating the revisions as summarized in the summary of changes which have been attached to our report. Do I have a motion?
So.
Moved by Osman, seconded?
Second.
Lilligren, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your work on this. We appreciate it. And we will now move on to our next item. We have item 2025-306. It's award wastewater parks and transit bonds within established financial parameters. And we've got resolutions attached to this, and we're welcoming up Mark Thompson, our Director of Treasury. Good to see you again, Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Yes, Mark Thompson, I'm the Treasury Director for the Council, and I'm here to present business item 2025-306, titled Award Wastewater Parks and Transit Bonds Within Established Financial Parameters. There's, like you mentioned, three resolutions, 2025-37, -38, and 39. And this is an annual business item that's brought forward as the council's uses bond funds each year to finance 12 to 15 months of capital expenditures. We're currently preparing to competitively sell tax exempt GO bonds, general obligation bonds, for each of our three divisions: parks, wastewater, and transit. And this business item requests adoption of the three parameters, or three resolutions, each of which will authorize the issuance, sale, and award of a specific bond series, provided the sale results are within the financial parameters of each resolution. So I'll go through those in a moment, but so the resolutions, the parameters in each resolution are established in conjunction with working with our municipal advisor and our bond counsel. And the parameters set limits around the time of the sale, the amount of the sale, and the maximum interest rate for each issue. And there's a chart in your business item that shows those parameters. And the bonds cannot be sold outside of those parameters. So that decision is made at the time of sale, when we see the bids come in. If they don't meet the parameters, we don't move forward. So regarding the time limit parameters, you'll see that the wastewater and parks bond series must be sold within 90 days with, we have an expected sale date of January 20th on those two. The transit bond series will be sold a little later, and they have their parameter states they must be sold within 120 days. And we have an expected sale date of March 24th on that series. The reason for the separate sale dates is transit, we try to align all three divisions together, and it doesn't always work that way, with different spend patterns. Transit doesn't need money as soon as parks and wastewater, so we just back their sale up a couple months to pay less interest costs and not have two bonds outstanding at the same time, so. The maximum issuance sizes are also in the resolutions, and those are determined by the amount of capital spending each division needs. And the maximum interest rates reflect current market yields for similar structure, AAA rated Minnesota GOs, with a little added cushion of approximately 1.5%. The cushion's in there to give us a little leeway during the sale, and because we don't sell the bonds for another month or two, interest rates may change, but our expectations are set on current rates, and I'll kind of tell you those in a moment. But specifically, Resolution 37, 2025-37 applies to our wastewater bond series, and 2026A, it authorizes up to $344.3 million of 20-year GO bonds, GO wastewater revenue bonds to be specific, at a maximum interest rate of 5.25%. We're expecting those to come in near 3 and 3.75. The wastewater bond issue is a combination of 296.3 of new funding, and then we are also going to try to refinance 47.2 million of a 2015 bond issue. So those two are combined into one series, the refunding portion and the new money portion. The refunding portion has a separate parameter on it that we must realize at least 2.75% savings on the interest rate. You'll see that in the chart too. And if we realize that, we'll save about $1.5 million of future interest costs on that portion. Our wastewater bonds are expected to be repaid with wastewater system revenues. Resolution 2025-38 applies to our parks bond series, 2026B. It authorizes up to $9.2 million of 5-year general obligation park bonds at a maximum interest rate of 4.5%. We're expecting it to come in closer to 3%. This bond would be entirely new funding, and park bonds are repaid by levy. And Resolution 2025-39 applies to our transit bond series, 2026D. And it authorizes up to $80.8 million of 10-year general obligation transit bonds at a maximum interest rate of 4.75. We're expecting to be closer to 3.25. And this bond series is also entirely new funding, and transit bonds are also paid back by levy. As I mentioned, the sale date for the early sale date for the wastewater and parks bonds is in January, and there'll be a closing in February, and that's when the proceeds are actually received. The transit bonds will be sold later in March, and the proceeds will come in April. And after the two sale dates, the second sale date is in March, as I said, and I'll come back to this committee and report on the results of both sales. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Great, thank you, Mark. Are there any questions? Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the, looking at page 2 after the chart, or in the chart, you have a line for minimum NPV savings. What is NPV?
Net present value.
Net present value. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember.
Good question.
Yep.
Any other questions? Alright, seeing none then, we have for us the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council adopt resolutions 2025-37, 2025-38, 2025-39, authorizing the issuance, sale, and award of general obligation debt, the incurrence of related issuance expenses, and the execution of documents necessary to secure the financings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Morales.
Second.
Seconded by Jenkins. Any further discussion? And Mark, this will go to the full council on the 17th, is that correct? Okay,
Yes,
great.
ma'am.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we move on to our last item under non-consent, and this is 2025-312, Management of Regional Assets Policy. We've got Larry Phillips, our acting controller, with us here today, so thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Larry Phillips. I'm the acting controller and / accounting manager. I'm here today to talk through our management of regional assets policy FM 8-1. This policy establishes our accounting guidance on how capital assets are reported on our financial statement. I'll walk you through a few PowerPoint slides. In your agenda packet, there is a edited red line copy of the policy as well as a clean copy for your reference. Our organization has a large financial and physical footprint when it comes to capital assets. We have nearly $11 billion of assets on our books. Those are things that are shown on the slide here. That includes lands, building, infrastructure, construction in progress, vehicles, equipment, and other non-tangibles such as lease agreements. The proposed change here today is to update the policy to allow the regional administrator to set the initial cost threshold and document it in the procedures FM 8-1B, which is the regional capital asset guidelines. So the event that triggered this change was related to a FTA, or Federal Transit Administration, change in 2024 to increase the capitalization threshold of an asset from $5,000 to $10,000. The proposed change to the council's policy will allow the council to align with FTA guidance through amendments to procedure FM 8-1B, and it will provide us flexibility to address future changes to the initial cost threshold, whether suggested by FTA, or other accounting guidance. I do want to take a moment just to talk about what capitalization means. It's an accounting principle. And what it means is when we buy a large asset, like a bus, for example, we'll take that asset, we'll program it into the capital asset table in our financial system, and then we'll depreciate that asset over time. We'll take that financial information and we'll report it in our audited financial statement. So the actual threshold is a very important number when determining a capital asset. I also want to mention, since our organization receives quite a bit of FTA funding, it seemed prudent to align our policy and procedure with FTA guidance. So again, this policy change allows the regional administrator to put the capital asset threshold, set it in the procedure. The other change I want to mention too is we do have some housekeeping here. We have in the policy, we have some updated job titles. We removed specific employee names. There's some formatting, and we changed the name from fixed asset to capital asset, which is the correct terminology.
All right, are there any, all right, keep going.
I can pause for questions if you'd like.
No, I do. Does anybody have any questions on that so far? Okay,
Not yet.
not yet. That's a good answer. Okay. Thank you.
So this slide is put together just to provide some context on how this policy change and procedure change will impact our financial statement. The table shows our assets reported on our annual financial statement. It's broken down by division, and it shows the assets within the range of $5,000 to $10,000, because our current threshold is $5,000, and the new one that is proposed is $10,000, so it's showing them with that range. It's also breaking it down by division. So there are a lot of numbers here, but I'll just point you to the bottom right of the screen. And we'll point out that we have $19.4 million of assets within the range of $5,000 to $10,000. We have $10.7 billion worth of assets in total on our books. So that's 0.2%. So the conclusion is this policy and procedure, if implemented, would impact 0.2% of that assets that we currently report.
All right, any other questions?
No, go for it.
She nodded at
We're
you.
gonna wrestle for it.
No, go for it.
Councilmember Jenkins and then we'll adjourn.
Okay. So I know this is in response to an FTA change in procedure. Sort of a two-part question. The first part is, do we have to match their, their definitions? Or do we have to be within a range of their definitions? That's the first part.
Madam Chair and council and committee members, we have to meet the minimum requirements. So currently we have 5,000, FTA is saying 10,000. So we meet the minimum for them, which is underneath their current threshold. So we don't have to match necessarily.
And then the follow-up is, do we face similar challenges with differing organizations? And what do we do if FTA says 10 and FHA says 12?
Madam Chair and committee members, we do have the flexibility, if that were to ever happen, to have different capitalization thresholds for different needs or even divisions within the organization. Right now, we have kept it at a uniform amount. If that were to ever happen, we would have to pivot and we would have the flexibility to set thresholds specific to the business unit.
Great question, thank you. Councilmember Lilligren,
No, I'm fine.
are you good? Okay. Councilmember Cedarburg.
Thank you, I just really wanted to commend you, because on these policies, by taking out people's names, having job classifications, numbers, it just will make it a lot easier, and as all our policies are updated across the board, I think we need to have a consistent policy of updating, and what those should look like and what should or shouldn't be included through all the organizations and all the divisions. So I'm just looking at the management committee, looking at us to say, as we go forward, hopefully there's a policy to implement the policy type of thing on how things should work.
Yeah, I would agree. Any further discussions? Councilmember Osman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wondering, you said that our asset will be increased 11 billion. So will that be impact our insurance policy also?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Would that be impact our insurance policy if the asset will be increased to the 11 billion?
Insurance policy, how's that impacted on the valuation?
Yeah, Madam Chair, committee members, I can jump in.
Our expert is right here.
It does play into that, but it won't impact the insurance that our insurance provider does have a separate process for determining the assets and the values that we would need to insure. So they do use this as a starting point, but there's a different analysis that's also a part of it.
Great, wow. As always, you guys are on point with your questions today, good. Anything else on this? All right, then we have before us a motion that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached updated management of assets policy FM 8-1. We've had the report on today, so is there a motion? I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Osman, seconded by Jenkins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you very much for being here. I can only imagine the work that goes into doing something like this, and just echoing everything that's been said, we appreciate that attention to detail and cleaning things up and getting it right where it needs to be, so we appreciate you coming today. Thank you. All right, now we have before us one item under information, and it is our quarterly financial report. And so we're gonna keep Larry up here for a while and go through all of this, so I'll turn it back over to you, and anybody else who's joining, we'll just let you introduce yourselves too as you have your speaking part in all of this.
start it off.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Larry Phillips. I'm the acting controller and accounting manager. I'm joined today with our other financial leaders in our organization. And do we want to introduce ourselves?
Hi, I'm Christine Dwyer. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. I'm Christine Dwyer. I'm the Director of Finance for Environmental Services.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. My name is April Snyder. I'm Metro Transit Accounting Manager. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Heather Giesel. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration for Community Development and Metropolitan Transportation Services.
Thank you. So we'll be taking turns presenting this report to you, so we'll be handing this mic back and forth a couple more times at least. But the quarterly financial report is an internal report that we generate for quarter 2, 3, and 4. So right now we're on quarter 3. The report's first reviewed by senior staff before it's brought to this committee. We do have a copy of the report in the agenda packet, and we'll be going through these slides here at this time. So the first slide is showing our operating reserves. This slide gives us a snapshot of our funds. It provides us the projected ending balance of our reserve. It provides the policy target dollar amount as well as the policy target percentage. From this slide, you can see that all reserve levels are near or above the target policy. Our general fund is what I often think of as our financial home base for the organization. It houses several of our administrative functions that we have. It also houses financial activity for regional administration and community development divisions. On the revenue side, the revenue comes in from a combination of property taxes, interest earnings, and some smaller funding sources. Our revenues are projected to come in slightly under budget for the general fund. Expenses are currently at 58% spent and are projected to come in under budget by $12.4 million. On the transfers in line, those are projected to come in under by $6.7 million. This is a direct correlation to the RA portion of the general fund. So whatever is not spent from the RA portion of the general fund doesn't get charged to divisions. The RA cost allocation is projected to be at 95% at year end, so divisions are anticipating that level in this report. The projected fund balance is expected to be $33.2 million, which is above the minimum target of 15.1. And on the general fund, we do have just under $8 million of our reserves that are designated for specific purposes. We have $2.5 million for risk and self-insurance. We have $5.4 million for compensated absence, that's accrued vacation time, accrued PTO, and then $53,000 for water supply because the ES funding sources can't pay for that, so it's used here. So I'll pause before turning it over to Christine for environmental services.
Are there any questions? Okay, we can keep.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Madam
sorry.
Chair. Thanks.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks. Just a quick question for my own edification here. So within the errors and omissions of the self-insurance fund, compensated absences, are those liquid? I mean, what are those numbers based on? Is that close to actual or our best estimates?
The compensated absence is calculated every year, and it takes the current outstanding PTO or vacation balances of employees and takes their hourly rates.
So that's pretty accurate.
Yes. And the risk self-insurance is carried over from year to year, and I believe it's updated from time to time when we need to adjust that number.
So it's more of an estimate than this. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, Madam Chair, committee members, on the risk and self-insurance, that's tied to the potential loss with our tort caps.
Sure.
So these would be losses that we might incur here at regional administration that aren't specifically allocated out,
Okay.
but it's tied to the tort cap.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else on this? Okay, we can move along.
Thank you. Madam Chair, council members, I'll be walking you through the environmental services operating budget, our operating forecast to just ground ourselves, just looking at the budget first on the far right. We had budgeted revenues of 321 million. And as you are likely aware, most of our revenues, of course, come from our wastewater service fees that we charge to our customers, as well as some industrial charges and interest and state appropriations, but mostly wastewater fees. Our expenses, we budget 183.3 million, and transfers 147 million essentially. So we did expect to use some of our reserves of about 8.7 million this year as we budgeted. However, as we look at the way things are currently coming in, we are expecting that we are about $7.9 million favorable, so we are only going to use just a small amount of our reserve, about 800,000. So our reserve balance will stay basically the same as it was at the beginning of the year. We were at 57 million. We expect to end with a reserve balance of about 56.3 million, which is well above our targeted balance reserve of 18 million. So where we're seeing favorability across all three major areas of our operating statement, revenues are expected to be about $1 million favorable, and that's really a combination of the some unfavorability actually in industrial charges, as we lost a customer late in the year and we had a correction in wastewater fees, so we were down about $1.5 million there. But that's been more than offset by some favorable interest charges, about investment earnings, which is related to our interest charges, about 1 million. And then we also had some state appropriations that came in later than we set our budget very early, so they were decided later, so we had a little bit of favorability there. So overall, about $1 million favorable in revenues. Our largest area of favorability is in expenses. We're about $5 million favorable in expenses, and that's made up of about 4 areas. Salaries and wages, we're seeing vacancies higher than we anticipated, so we're about $1.5 million favorable there. Our utilities are favorable due to some lower fuel charges, about $1 million there. We also, in our chemical budget, seeing favorability because of some lower costs on our chemicals. And then we also had some timing differences or delays in some of our grants, which related to about $1 million favorable there. So overall, about $5 million favorable in expenses. And as Larry mentioned, we have some favorability in our transfers related to our allocation that we received from regional administration of about 1.6 million. And then we had an offsetting charge of offsetting favorability of some IS charges that are offsetting expenses. But so overall, looking really good for this year for our budget and our favorability.
Great.
Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Cedarburg.
I just have a comment. I really appreciate all the budget information we receive in the Environment Committee as well. It's been very helpful because one of the big issues was projected chemical costs for coming up this year, and the fact that they're coming under that was expected to be quite a bigger increase than we had expected. You know, or just, I guess it was expected, and now we're seeing that the costs have decreased. So, but it's really nice to just get the information in both committees, seeing it wrapped up here. It's very nice to pull it all together. So appreciate it.
And thank you, Councilmember Cedarburg, for leadership on that committee. Are there any questions on this section? All right, seeing none, we can move along.
Oh, do I have to? Sorry. Okay, so really quick, I'll take you through our sewer access charges or SAC units. So these are the charges that we charge for the access to our sewer system to customers for the access. So really it's, a reflection of the new development going on in our communities. Right now we're projecting for 2025 to be about 16,000 units. And that has been trending down in the past 3 years as we've seen. And that's really a reflection of some decreased activity in housing, single-family units, multifamily units, as well as commercial development. We've seen that partially offset by institutional governmental construction. So we are seeing that partially offset, but still do see that downward trend just as reflective, I think, of what's going on in the broader economy. With that, and looking at the impact that has. So that goes into our reserve balance, and we use these reserves to help offset our debt service. So we used about $52 million of this reserve for our debt service annually. Based on the 16,000 units of SAC, that brings in about $40 million. So as you can see here, we're using some of our reserve each year, and that's coming down as well as we see that activity decline. We're really required to keep a reserve balance of about 50 million, so we're still well above where we're required to be, but we do see that trending down a little bit based on that lower construction activity and those SAC units coming in. Any questions related to that?
Are there any questions? It's very interesting to see these trends. It would be interesting to go back before 2005 too. I don't know if these are leading indicators of anything, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we are watching that closely as we kind of try to project this out and how that comes together and whether we need to consider in the future a rate increase because of that. So
Yeah.
we're monitoring that carefully.
Okay, great. All right, we can move on. We've got the Housing and Redevelopment Authority.
Good afternoon, I'll cover Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and then I believe move into Metropolitan Transportation Services, Metro Mobility as well. So revenues are projected to be favorable to budget by $4.4 million. The main reason for this favorable variance is higher than expected administrative fees from HUD, as well as approximately $450,000 in unbudgeted interest earnings. Expenses are also projected to be favorable to budget by $2.1 million. You may recall back in Q2, we were facing expenses just over $4 million unfavorable to budget. We had authorized an additional $5 million from the HRA Reserve Fund in the Q3 amendment to cover this. We're now seeing lower costs from serving less families in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We've held off on adding new families as others have rolled off as a result of some of the shortfall funding and some of the delays in funding. So one of the things that HUD recommends is that we hold off on filling those vacancies as there's funding shortages. So then there's also been lower than budgeted spending in contracted services and other general administrative expenses as well. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, I will note, is currently in shortfall with HUD due to continued inflation outpacing the budget authority. We had gotten word a couple of weeks ago that the funding was being processed and had been submitted to the HUD Financial Management Division. It does still need to be obligated and requested, but good news that it's moving through the process. We have not gotten the funding yet. I believe as of this morning, we've gotten word that there was a slight delay, but might be continuing to anticipate that either later this week or early next, but we will keep you updated on that. So our initial ask for that was $5 million. Our current need for shortfall funding is about $3.2 million. We anticipate it'll land somewhere in between there. They'll give us, if they give us more than we need, we will roll that into 2026. So projected reserve balance for HRA is $17.2 million, which is still above our minimum balance, or our target balance of $9.8 million.
Great, are there any questions? Seeing none, we can move on.
Okay, so moving on to Special Transportation Services. So this is Metro Mobility and Metro Move. Revenues are higher than anticipated due to the state funding coming in higher than we had originally budgeted. So the forecasted amount and what was in legislation changed after our initial budget was built. Expenses are favorable to budget by approximately $5.5 million. A large part of this is from vacancies that have been unfilled for about 3/4 of the year. We're just starting to fill those now. We've also seen lower activity in consulting and contracted services, driven by less ridership and activity in Metro Move. So that program is about $6.2 million below budget. We're at about 50% of budgeted ridership in the Metro Move program. Fuel costs are also coming in lower by about $3.3 million. We're only anticipating using about 80% of what we had budgeted for fuel. In addition to the lower usage, the cost of fuel is about 50 cents per gallon lower than we had budgeted. Reserves here, you will note, they are at $5 million for this program. Our target balance for this program is $6.6 million. We anticipate that future state appropriations will more closely align with expenses and therefore increase the fund balance back to target minimums. So there are adjustments in November and February state forecast to match the anticipated expenses. So we're working with MMB to kind of get an idea of what our actual expenses look like, and then the forecast, and then ultimately legislation will be adjusted in response to the forecast to get us back to actuals. So just kind of a game of figuring out the cadence for how the forecast and the corrections will work between us and MMB. So that is it on special transportation services. I can take any questions if there are any.
Any questions? All right, we can move on.
This slide is covering our motor vehicle sales tax revenue. It compares our February 2025 forecast versus what we've actually received for the year. We also include a comparison for 2024 on the slide. As a reminder, we budget 95% of the state forecast. Anything we receive above that amount goes into the reserves for future years' operations. At the time of this report, we've received $289 million of our motor vehicle sales tax revenue, and that is 92.2% of the February forecast. The slide shows what we think our MVEST reserves would be